Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Numerics with Nadia. In today's video, we're going to compare the similarities and differences between a monomial, a binomial, a trinomial, and a polynomial. So for our lesson breakdown for today, first off, we're going to define all of these terms. So we will define what a monomial is, a binomial, a trinomial, and a polynomial. And then once we do that and once we understand that, we'll get into our practice section for today. And in our practice section, we will just be classifying different expressions and equations as either monomials, binomials, trinomials, and polynomials. So let's get to our first definition for today. We are going to go over what a monomial is. A monomial is an expression with a single term, and that term can include a number, a variable, or a product of numbers and variables. So in simplest terms, a monomial is a number, variable, or product of both. And now for each one of these, we're going to go through examples of what are classified as a monomial, and then examples of what would not be considered a monomial. So the number 12 would be classified as a monomial. The variable x would be classified as a monomial. 7a, right, the product of a number and a variable, that would be classified as a monomial. And then 6y squared also classifies as a monomial because it's the product of a number and a variable. So now that we've gone through what examples of monomials are, what would not be considered a monomial? A plus b, right? There's addition going between the variables here that would not be considered a monomial. How about 7x divided by 2y? Also not considered a monomial because there's division going on here. And another example of what would not be considered a monomial would be 5 plus 4c, right? There is addition going on between our terms, so that would also not be considered a monomial. Now that we've gone over what a monomial is, we'll go up one more step to a binomial. So a binomial is an expression with exactly two terms joined by either addition or subtraction. So what would this look like? Let's go through some examples of a binomial. So x plus 4 would be considered a binomial because our terms x and 4 are joined by an addition sign. Same thing goes with 18 minus y. 18 and y are two terms joined with a subtraction sign. And the same thing for 3a squared minus b, right? Our two terms, 3a squared and b, are joined by a subtraction sign. So those are all examples of what binomials are. Now, what would not be considered a binomial? 2x, that is just one term. Same thing with 4x squared, also just one term. And negative 5, that's just a number, only one term. So those would not be considered binomials. Now we'll get into what a trinomial is. A trinomial is, in simplest terms, a trinomial is just an expression with exactly three terms. Now, what would this look like? Let's go through a few examples just so we can see what a trinomial would look like. For our first example, we have x squared plus 5x plus 6, right? There are three terms here. They are joined with an addition sign, so that would be classified as a trinomial. Another example would be 6x squared plus 7x minus 5, also considered a trinomial. Now, while we're on the topic of trinomials, I wanted to go over the standard form of a trinomial. This will come in handy when we begin factoring more. The standard form for a trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. So just keep this in your back pocket. We will explore it more later. But that is it for trinomials. Now let's move on to our final term for today's lesson. Let's define what a polynomial is. A polynomial is an expression composed of variables, coefficients, and exponents, where the only operations used are addition, subtraction, and multiplication. So this is a super long definition. What does it mean? I'm going to put up a little diagram here that compares types of polynomials, and in doing so, you guys will see that monomials, binomials and trinomials, all of the terms that we've gone over so far, are all types of polynomials. The only thing that differentiates them is the number of terms. So monomials have one term, binomials have two terms, trinomials have three terms, and polynomials basically have four or more terms, which is just many terms. And in this diagram, you have examples of each. So I would highly encourage you guys to copy this down into your notebook, along with all of the other notes we've taken on all of these terms, just so you have a very strong foundation before getting into our practice section for today. So for our practice section today, we are just going to go through and classify and just make sure that we've truly understood everything we've learned in this lesson so far. So the directions say to classify the following algebraic expressions as either monomials, binomials, trinomials, or polynomials. So we'll just have an example of each. So using everything we've learned in our lesson today, the definitions and the examples, we're going to classify these four into one of those classifications. So for number one, we have 5x. For number two, we have a plus x. For number three, we have x squared plus 5x minus 8. And for number four, we have negative 7a squared plus 9b minus 4b cubed plus 6. So let's go through here and classify all of them now. Looking at number one, it's only one term, right? So number one would be considered a monomial. Looking at number two, we have two terms joined together with an addition sign. So that would be considered a binomial. Looking at number three, we have three terms here. So that would be considered a trinomial. And for number four, we have four terms. So that would be considered a polynomial. And that wraps up our lesson for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to like it if you did, comment any questions or any other video topics you would like to see down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this video with a friend, and I will see you guys next time.